Hi, welcome to the Niels Homestead, and today we are going to be setting up our new freeze dryer. It's new to us, and we've had it for about a year, and it was, the people that had it before us had it for a while, but it's never been used. We bought it from them unused. We've intended to get it set up, but we've just been so busy with building the house and with school and everything else that we haven't gotten it done. But today is hopefully the day. We bought it for $4,000, which included the freeze dryer, the table, trays, various bags, etc., oil, and the pump that goes with it, which I think is a good deal. All of that together is probably around $5,000. I look now and the machine itself is about $4,000, so I think $4,000 for a brand new unit is pretty good. So one of the first issues that we ran into is that it takes a little bit different thing than normal electrically. It takes 110 volts, but it has to have a 20 amp circuit. So you have to make sure in your house that you have a heavier wire and a 20 amp circuit. Now most electrical plugs are going to be that. That's your typical thing. This plug itself is shaped like that. We call it a winky eye plug because it looks like somebody's winking with one eye. And in order to use this is still a 110 plug, not a 220. You have to have an outlet like this that will accommodate that slotted one. So we were able to find a 20 amp circuit in the house that has nothing else on it, but it is running 12 gauge wire, and it runs to these. It runs a few plugs, but there's nothing else plugged into them. So first thing I'm going to have to do is replace this plug into the 20 amp plug. This is a no contact circuit tester. It doesn't have to touch electricity when it's on to read that it's there. So if you get it close to electricity, it'll come on. I'm going to put it in there, and then when I flip the breaker, that will go off, and we'll know that I turned the right circuit off. Alright, so that was the right circuit. We got the electricity off here. Now I'm going to take the cover off and pull the outlet out and replace it. We're excited to get this freeze dryer up and running. My daughter Maya is especially excited. She's been bugging me for quite a while. It'll be a cool thing to have, and that way we can save food. It is a lot of work though, running the thing, and a fair amount of expense, and even getting it set up. So this is just one step in the process. You can't just plug it in a normal plug-in. You got to have a special type of plug-in. They do that to make sure that somebody doesn't take it home and plug it into a 15 amp circuit and then it trip. It's apparently kind of bad to have the cycle interrupted. Like if it trips, it can mess everything up, especially if you don't catch it right away. So you want to make sure to have it on a heavy enough breaker. So this is the 20 amp plug. It's got this here. You can plug a regular plug into it, but you can also put a 20 amp plug into it. This is going to be your hot side, the gold side. And this will be your neutral side, silver. And this is your ground. This is basically just a safety thing that if anything shorts out, it will have a path for the electricity, or if you lose neutral and something shorts out, there's a path for the electricity to go to ground so it doesn't energize a machine and shock somebody. All right, that's that with electricity. I've got to turn it back on. I think we're ready to start hooking the pump up. So this is the vacuum pump. A freeze dryer works by cooling, creating a vacuum, and then heating a specific area, which causes the moisture to evaporate. This is oil, I believe, the first batch of oil. High vacuum pump oil. And then this is going to be the pump itself. Like I said, it's pretty heavy. Okay, this pump plugs in, but it doesn't plug into the wall by itself. There's a plug-in on the back of the freeze dryer that it plugs into. I haven't plugged the freeze dryer in yet, so I'm going to go ahead and plug this in. So this is where the pump plugs in at. This is controlled by the machine. And this is the hose that connects the machine to the pump. This one hooks onto here and here. On the pump, it has an oil fill indicator here. The oil is an important part of running a freeze dryer. This is one of the major maintenance things going on with it. So to fill it, you have to take this off, which is a demystifier. This is your fill hole up here. All right, now we'll pour oil in and we'll watch the fill level down here. It has to be between the minimum and the maximum. If it goes too low, then the oil, the pump could burn up. It won't work properly. If it goes too full, then it will actually like leak out in areas. And I got it too full. I overshot it a little bit. It came up real fast there at the end. But it does say to run it for a little bit and see, because I'm sure the pump isn't actually full yet and all of that. So I'm going to run it briefly. So I'm going to go ahead and plug this thing in. Turn that one on, and then I'm going to turn the pump on here. I tried turning it on and it didn't run, but I think it's because it has to be in a certain part of the cycle to work. So since I'm just going to run it for a bit and not really do anything, I'm going to go ahead and plug it into the wall and run it from there. Verify that my switch is off. And plug it in and then... Okay, it's running. It says to let it run for 1 minute before you stop it, and the oil level is dropping down below over max, so that's good. I'm going to go ahead and turn it off, and then I'm going to open this back up and refill it with the rest of the oil that's in this bottle. There's just a little bit. I'm going to plug the pump back into the back of the freeze dryer. This is the drain valve after it thaws, and it's also the air admittance valve. It lets air in whenever you have a vacuum. Since I ran that pump a bit, there's probably a vacuum in here. Yeah. I've got the unit plugged in, so the system is on. I'm going to remove the new plastic from the door. Sometimes I'll just leave plastic on for years, but I'll go ahead and remove it this time. I'm a little bit notorious for that, and it drives my sister-in-law crazy. Like, she will go around and rip all the plastic covering off of things that we left it on. So this is the door. I don't know if you can see that. This door is a good 3/4, maybe more thick. It's like a serious plastic door. This latch that releases the pressure and then unlatches, and then it has this rubber seal. So you're supposed to make sure that the inside of the door is clean, and this seal, see, it's got little flakes of something on there. It says not to use any cleaners on any of this stuff. So you can wipe it off with a damp towel, but no cleaners. All of this has to be built really strongly because it creates a lot of pressure whenever it has this much vacuum inside of it. It sucks. This whole door system will suck in tight against this and compress the seal as it vacuums. The way these things work is, I'm going to get a little sciencey on you, but the boiling point of things lowers the less pressure there is. So whenever you create a vacuum, water is able to boil at a much lower pressure, no lower temperature than normal. So you can actually freeze the water in something, create ice crystals in there, and then take that straight from solid to gas and not go through the liquid stage in between. So it maintains the shape and the texture of the food. And it does that by, you place food, preferably frozen, on the tray. You put it in the machine, and it cools the machine, like it freezes the inside of this, and it creates a vacuum, a really strong vacuum. On the bottom of each of these this is actually a heating element. So all of these heat underneath these trays. It doesn't get warm really, it just gets warmer than the surrounding air, so it evaporates off and turns into water vapor. And then it refreezes all around the edge because this whole edge is cold. So all your water leaves the food and freezes to the edge, and you'll end up with frost all over here. That's why you have to drain it each time. I've been fortunate to learn a lot about the freeze dryers, even though I've not run one yet, from my friend Chad, who came and helped us pour our concrete. He's my former boss with electrical stuff too. And he's had a freeze dryer for a while, and he's done a lot of stuff with it, and he's shown me his and talked me through the process. So that hopefully will help me on my way to the learning curve, because there's really a lot to these things. When we were at their house once, there was some extra soup left over from the meal, and instead of throwing it out or putting it in the fridge for 2 weeks and then throwing it out, he got some like Chinese takeout containers, the plastic containers, and poured it into those about a ½ inch thick or so, and then put them in the freezer so that they would freeze. And then later he would break it out onto the trays and freeze dry it. And so that way you can have kind of an instant meal of soup instead of wasting it. All right, so I'm ready to run it through its first test setting, verifying that the seal's good and clean. I'm gonna go ahead and close it. And then I need to close this valve around here. This will not allow a vacuum to form, so we gotta close that. This is the bucket that we have for a drain bucket for the hose. This needs to go around the back where the hose is. So the hose needs to be into this bucket, but it should not be into the water of the bucket, or else if the valve should happen to leak a little bit, or when you open it up to let the pressure off, it will suck all the water that's in the bucket up and spray it all over the inside of the freeze dryer, which creates a big mess. You don't want to do that. I think I'm ready to do this setup and test. Supposed to touch this leaf and then turn the freeze on. Now we have to wait for 30 minutes or more because it's supposed to freeze. All right, we'll be back in about 30 minutes. Okay, it's been over 30 minutes, so now it says to turn the vacuum on. The instructions suggest that this will take 20 to 30 minutes, so we'll come back. It's been over 15 minutes. Actually, it says 23 minutes now, and it is below 500. But that is a successful test, it says, and so we can click done. After the test cycle, I need to let the pressure back into the machine. So I need to open this valve up, and that will let air go into it. I'll lock it back. And then I'm gonna start the cycle because you're supposed to wait 15 minutes before loading the trays. So while this is going, I'm gonna get the bread ready over here. Harvest Right recommends that you use white bread as your first batch, and that's to like soak up the new car smell, the manufacturing process smells. So I've got just a plain loaf of white bread that I dampened, and I'm gonna spread some of the sheets on the freeze dryer sheets here, some of the pieces of bread. Adding some moisture makes the machine work a little bit harder and run more properly, and probably gives it a chance to soak up and wash off the smells and such. So they recommend you to dampen it before you put it on. It's only been 11 minutes, but it got below 32 degrees Fahrenheit, and so it says load trays in the freeze dryer and close the drain valve. So I'm gonna go ahead and load these trays. I've already got the drain valve closed. All right, now we'll click continue and see what it tells us. I guess that's it, freezing for now. We'll see what message it gives later. I think after it freezes to the point that it wants, then it will switch to a drying setting. I don't know for sure how long this process takes. So it says from this point where it froze, we put stuff in, started it, that everything is automatic. So we will check back in periodically and see how long it tells us that this cycle is going to know. I think it senses everything, like it can tell how much moisture is still in whatever you're drying and adjust the time accordingly. This is my first time going through it myself, so we'll find out. Well, we're back here to take the first batch of stuff out. It has been 18 hours, but it was actually done after about 12 hours. We were busy though and haven't been able to take stuff out. It says process complete, open drain valve to vent. And if you need more dry time, you can select more dry time or the various defrost options. So we're going to open the drain valve over here, which is going to let the pressure in. The door and around the seal is all condensed up from the cold, and you can see inside that there's frost all over it. This should be pressure free now, so I'm going to open it up. The cold is like falling out of this thing. It's quite cold. Let's pull it out and see what the bread looks like. It looks like bread, but it's really, really light.
Oh.
I'm gonna pull this tray out, see what it looks like. I'll go ahead and pull all of them out and dump them in that tray. We're not keeping this. My hands are freezing doing this. I had a little bit of moisture on them at one point and it stuck to the pan, but with them dry, it's just cold. You can see all the frost all around the edges there. That's the moisture that's come out of the food and out of the air, what little was left in there, and it has all frozen around the container. So before you run the next batch, you have to let this thing defrost. And you can either put it on kind of a power cycle that will defrost it, or you can say no defrost and just let the ambient air temperature do it. Saves a little power, but takes more time. The purpose of a freeze dryer is to make food that can be prepared very quickly with no extra cooking and that will keep for years. A lot of freeze-dried foods will keep for 20 to 40 years if you package them properly. So it's able to take food today and save it for tomorrow, food that can be prepared quickly with little cooking and such. We don't have enough time to put another batch in right now, so I just hit no defrost and we're going to let ambient air temperature warm this thing and melt it out, and it'll drain into the bucket that I have over there. So for our first keeper batch, we are planning to do something that a lot of people do, and that's Skittles. They're kind of fun because they puff up and explode, so if you want to see that in our next video, look out for that. So thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this, and we'll see you all next time.